had a dream, sort of ongoing, quite complex, leaving one place, leaving stuff behind as usual, and got to get somewhere, and it's a strange area I don't know, and I mean, there's no occurrence to me that I'm going to use GPS or a map, really amazing. And I think to myself as I wake now at 10 to 7, and it's Sunday morning, so it's lovely, I'm comfortable for time, and thank you, Heavenly Dad, for the dreams. They're very confusing. But I'm thinking the dreams are my interpretation, which it's thought that our own interpretation of the dream is more likely to be what it does mean. And it occurs to me very quickly, not that I thought about it more than 30 seconds, a minute. And I've done this on waking. I'm still sort of, it's daylight, of course, it's lovely. It's heaven. He's trying to work out how to get back home to heaven. And he's in a place which is, it's handleable. I mean, it's a city, it's, transport, and in this case I was, I think, riding a bicycle much of the time, but there was someone with me, so I sort of may have been in a car. There's no knowing. Don't know what the transport is. And I remember thinking, it's a different town, and I think it was America. But this city is, surprisingly, although it's something like New York or something, it's just like London. Now, of course, New York isn't. New York is, you always know which way you're going. If you want to go, up the island, you just stick to the main avenues. If you want to go across, then you go the streets, and it's dead easy. But this wasn't. This was much more like London, where you can, you get to a junction and there's 2 or 3 options, and you've no idea which one to take, and they all look pretty main and urban, and so it goes on. But yes, the overall picture, I think he's trying to work out, how do I get back to heaven? Well, of course I know, God simply takes you at a certain time, but God's not in the dream again, and you could say, disappointed with myself that I didn't think of God in the dream. And yet, I'm not too perturbed in the dream. It's just extremely frustrating that trying to find the way back, or to the city I want, which bizarrely may have been Hamilton or Auckland, or it certainly wasn't specified as London, but it could have been one of the other two. And it's the next city anyway, it's the next main city. And, I'm sort of almost going round in circles. It doesn't even occur to me, well, when I ask someone for the direction I want, look at where the sun is, because it was a nice sunny day, there weren't other problems, really. Just trying to find my way back to the place that I know. I think that is heaven. When the dream stopped, now that I think I know what the basic dream that I hadn't had it for a good few weeks, mind you. I was getting it quite a lot, and now I got it strongly. Don't know. Yesterday was a particularly good day. Some problems I had unravelled, my son phoned up, well, bizarrely at 11 o'clock at night. Sorry I'm late phoning you, Dad. Oh, that's all right. I just sound asleep. I didn't tell him that. You don't often get phone calls at 11 o'clock at night. And he talked, well, we talked for probably half an hour. I mean, probably nearly that long. Even he said he was tired as going to bed now because he's in New Zealand. It's just that he's, I don't know, 5 hours away or something, I don't know, 4 hours away. Yeah, by car that would be. But sorted out some things like the wedding and so on, and whether I'm supposed to have a present, whether I can wear the tunic that I wanted to. It's a Fijian wedding, although it's going to be here in Hamilton. And, I wanted to get it right, and a couple of other issues that somehow sorted themselves out. And I felt yesterday was such a lovely Sabbath day. I realised when I was doing my diary that I decided last week to keep the Sabbath, and this week I did strongly decide to as well. But this may seem very sort of toy or curious, or what's Marshall doing there? What's this about Sabbath? Has he dropped back to some fundamentalism or something? But of course, I feel I am a fundamentalist in that, in a very strange way, that I'm trying to find fundamentally what we're supposed to be doing all the time and how. Such as, when we think of Jesus as the way, well, in what sense is he the way? It doesn't seem to be much at all what Christianity is necessarily made of it. Not surprising if Constantine mangled it early on, etc. Let me pause. Well, I made this recording 7 minutes so far, and it's a storm of words. I realised that I wanted to get to the point, and then having got directly to the point, fill in a few details to make it intelligible to you. So it's not beautifully developed or something, but on the other hand, I've already covered the distance. And I'm now thinking, as I say, perhaps the dream will tend to stop. It's done, it's communicated the message. If I've got it right. If I haven't, is getting back to heaven a stress for me? No. It's not something I'm preoccupied with in some sense. I mention heaven as the goal when I'm recording Life Eternal, and in the context of the Jesus story, of course. So I'm keen on feeling that I know the way, and that I'm on it and been on it for a while, and I've found it very satisfactory. I actually feel anything but lost. You could say, if you don't follow my spiritual or religious drift, well, that's because you're deluded. But a deluded person that's very confident that he's en route is not stressed about not knowing the way. He's quite clear he knows the way. He's, like these fundamentalists, they're dogmatically right, and they're not in doubt at all. Whereas I feel I have a logic of reasoning that, because of my research in decision making in uncertainty, or consistent with that, if you like, that no, there's always some doubt, but this is the way to handle a doubt situation. Which is, in case you're not familiar with my recordings, well, what do you value? How best do you trust in your own values? Personify them. And I think that's what religion has at least superficially done down the ages. It's personified the values of not the individual, but the society that's basically put the religion together. Individual contributions, but the society only selects out the ones it wants and elevates those in the common mind and hashes any others that conflict with it. And so it steers the national mind, if you like, the national view of what God is, which is the orthodoxy of religion and culture, and that dominates. And this may not be serviceable for the individual, but presumably is deemed, on and off at least, as serviceable to the state. Both economically, it saves in resources. You've got a meek and compliant population in some sense, and it's unified. It has the same culture and values, which means everybody knows their place and how to react socially with each other. And well, it's a great material success, but it's not necessarily, of course, by any means the ideal path for the individual and how he copes with his living, his or her living, and vis-a-vis day to day, and well, how he copes with the exploitation of the culture that he's benefiting by. You know, I mean, you're not being attacked by wild animals, and generally the enemy is not attacking you. You're not permanently at war, and you know, there's security of a sort. You tend not to be broken into every day, and you know, you're more or less benefiting from a culture and society, but it's not necessarily coping with even your basic ongoing psychological needs for, well, I don't know, what shall we list? Happiness, appreciation, meaning to life, a job that, you know, has purpose and brings some reward and giving a reasonable standard of living. You may be part of a bulk of enormous poor and subjected people, which I think still the bulk of the world's population is close to that. You might think not so in, say, Western Europe or America, but on the other hand, you could almost say they're duped because they're living at a very meagre standard of living to their elite, who are still fabulously rich. And that seems to have been the same down the ages, that our elites are not living the way that the mass of the population live. And if not in absolute terms, comparatively speaking, the bulk of the population are, well, living hand to mouth from the richest point of view, of course. Although you may have got a culture that makes this tolerated, it's not necessarily bringing fulfillment and happiness. And indeed, we're particularly concerned in the modern Western world that, having abandoned in large measure our traditional views, we are so constantly changing that it's not clear what our values are, even at times. And they seem very materialistic and attached to that which doesn't bring much deep consolation to being at all. So Marshall feels he's found the way. You trust in the personification of your own values, and you worship them. You pursue those with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, because you personalized it into your God. And this doesn't mean fighting with everyone else who's got a quite different view. On the contrary, you do what's pragmatically reasonable all the time, that protects life and keeps you safe and keeps you unharmed and minimally oppressed, so to speak, but very happy within, in the assurance of your God that loves you and is blessing you into life abundant, life eternal. In other words, quite simply, it's my take on the Jesus story, which departs quite drastically at times from any religion, not just the Christian religion. It's very individualistic in that sense. It suits the 21st century, you could say. It's so individualistic, you wonder what happens if the whole society is doing this. The answer is they won't, and they certainly don't. Individuals do, and it makes a tremendous difference to them, and they try to be a blessing to those around them, and cooperative even with the state, of course, because you try living in a society where there's no culture at all, it's terrible. I mean, it just doesn't work. You don't last long. Nothing lasts long. So we value the culture we're in. I personally have the sort of general view I'd rather live in New Zealand than anywhere else, because simplistically, I sort of still feel in my heart it's probably one of the better places. I thought England was fairly good, but I have no great desire to go back there. I thought America was less so, but I would certainly go there in preference to many countries in the world, and so on and so forth. So basically, it seems to result in a situation where you find being here meaningful because of where you're going in your mind, in your faith, your beliefs. And your beliefs personify what you truly value through life, which in my case you could say are love and joy and peace and hope and meaning to life and creativity and care of others. The usual list that I think most people would end up with something like that. They might start very materialistically by saying, they want to win the lotto and have a wonderful job and a beautiful partner or something, but in the end, when you say, why is that? You come down to, because I want to be happy, I want to be fulfilled, I want other people to appreciate me, and I want to help people. I want that sort of meaning, really. They might not want to help everybody, don't get me wrong, but, they want to be even a valued member of their society, respected and appreciated and loved. And in that sense, we find we're not fundamentally different. We're very similar. And, if we listen to a person's story, as Mark Twain has it, then they become much less our enemy or our problem. We become more understanding and generous in our tolerance to things that we would otherwise get very angry and upset and militant about. One of my basic tenets is something like the Eastern ahimsa, non-violence where at all possible, but not wedded to this principle as above all, because there are times when you might have to be violent to protect those you love and yourself. And then, even to harm is it may well be justified. I don't mean always is, but could well be. So mine is a non-dogmatic notion of values that give guidelines in the pure form of things, so to speak. But there's a pragmatic survival necessity which is not just basic and fundamental to being here and in the classroom as I see it. We must remain in the classroom to learn the lessons, but it's also fundamental to our values in that it is life that we value, and we define life as creative, alive, alert, vital, active, blessed, communal, healthy, and so on and so forth. The things we value. Right, running 21 minutes. Let me stop. Thank you, Heavenly.